All right, this is no longer available. All right, I'll try reloading. Try to launch that lab. This is a lab on loading data into Power BI desktop. And the lab environment is being built and it'll be ready in 2 minutes and 20 seconds approximately. This is a lab from Microsoft's PL 300 learning path, and it also is the lab before the first lab in the Microsoft PL 900 Power BI certification. So it makes sense to do the lab that comes before the first PL 900 lab. PL 900 is Microsoft's foundational certification involving Power BI. And this video is not edited, so you may fast forward if desired. All right, that has loaded. Disclaimer, before you start, you can click on this display in the upper left-hand corner and choose Fit Window to Machine. It doesn't have a big impact on my machine. You can also need to download the lab files to the D drive of the virtual machine, and that'll take about a minute to complete. All right, the files have been downloaded to the D drive of the virtual machine from GitHub. And now that we've seen the success message, we can click Next. For the lab, load data in Power BI desktop. This lab is estimated to take 45 minutes. In this lab, you'll commence apply transformations to each of the queries created in the previous lab. We'll then apply the queries to load each as a table to the data model. In this lab, you'll learn how to apply various transformations and apply queries to load them to the data model. The lab story. This lab is one of many in a series that was designed to complete a story as a complete story from data preparation to publication as reports and dashboards. You can complete the labs in any order. However, if you intend to work through multiple labs, for the first 10, we suggest you do them in the following order. Exercise 1 is to load data. In this exercise, you'll apply transformations to each of the queries created in the previous lab. Task 1 is to get started. In this task, you will set up the environment for the lab. Important, if you are continuing from the previous lab and you completed that lab successfully, do not complete this task. Instead, continue from the next task. To open the Power BI desktop on the taskbar, click the Microsoft Power BI desktop shortcut. get started. Click on that. All right. Okay, to open the starter Power BI desktop file, click File, click the File ribbon tab to open the Backstage view, and then select Open Report. And then Browse Reports. And then we want to navigate to this path. So DA100, Labs, O2, Load Data. Oh, I need to go into this folder and go to Starter, and then open the Sales Analysis Power BI file. All right. It says you can close any informational windows that may open. And number 10 says, notice the yellow warning message beneath the ribbon. This message alerts you to the fact that the queries have not been applied to load as model tables. You'll apply the queries later in this lab. To dismiss the warning message, at the right of the yellow warning message, click X. To create a copy of the file, click the File ribbon to open the Backstage view, choose Save As, and if prompted, choose Apply and to apply later. So choose Apply Later. And we'll save this to the D drive, to the DA100 folder, and the My Solution folder. Click Save. Closing that out again. To open the Power Query Editor window on the Home ribbon from inside the Queries group, click the Transform Data icon. And that was task 1. Task 2, configure the Salesperson query. In this task, you will configure the Salesperson query. In the Power Query Editor window in the Queries pane, which is right there, select the DIM employee query, it's already selected. To rename the query in the Query Settings pane located on the right, in the name box, replace the text with Salesperson. Then hit Enter. The query name will determine the model table name. It's recommended to use to define concise yet friendly names. In the Queries pane, verify that the query name has been updated, and it has been updated to Salesperson. You'll now filter the query rows to retrieve only employees who are salespeople. To locate a specific column on the Home ribbon tab from inside the Manage Columns group, click the Choose Columns down arrow, and then select Go to Column. Tip. This technique is useful when a query contains many columns. If there's not too many columns, you can simply horizontally scroll to locate the column of interest. And as these tasks go on, they'll skip saying go to manage columns, but it is a useful thing in many tasks in this lab. In the Go to Column window, to order the list by column name, click the AZ Sort button and then select Name to sort the variables in alphabetical order. Select the Salesperson flag column header. Okay. Click the down arrow, and then we will uncheck false because we only want to keep the records with true value of Salesperson flag. Click OK. In the Query Settings pane, in the Applied Steps list, notice the addition of the Filtered Rows step. Each transformation you create results in additional step logic. It's possible to edit or delete steps. It's also possible to select a step to preview the query results of that stage of the query transformation. To remove columns, on the Home ribbon tab from inside the Manage Columns group, click the Choose Columns icon. In the Choose Columns window, to uncheck all columns, uncheck the Select All. To include columns, check the following 6 columns: employee key, employee national, looks like alternate key, that, first name and last name, title, and email address. There's email address. And if I couldn't find it, just as we just did, we could order the variables by name and find them that way. We'll scroll down and click OK. And we should have the 6 columns. In the applied steps list, notice the addition of another query step. Removed other columns. To create a single name column, first select the first name variable. Then, while holding down the Control key, select the last name variable. Then right-click either of the select column headers, and then in the context menu, select Merge Columns and make the separator a space, and we'll call the new column Salesperson. Click OK. And the lab has some text. It says many column transformations can be applied by right-clicking the column header and then choosing them from the context menu. Note, however, more transformations are available in the ribbon. All right, so in the Merge Columns window, in the separator drop-down list, we selected space, and then in the new column name box, we replaced the text with Salesperson, and we clicked OK. To rename this variable, we double-click this long name and enter employee ID and hit enter. Important. When instructed to rename columns, it's important that you rename them exactly as described. Use the previous steps to rename the email address column to UPN. To the left. UPN is an acronym for User Principal Name. The values in this column will be used when you configure row-level security in the Model Data in Power BI Desktop Part 2 lab. At the bottom left, in the status bar, verify that the query has 5 columns and 18 rows. And it does. Important. It's important that you do not proceed if your query does not produce correct results. It won't be possible to complete later labs. If the query columns or query rows don't match, refer back to the steps in this task to fix any problems. And you can delete any step, any applied step. You could delete it if there was some error. And try it again. So that was task 2. Task 3 is configure the salesperson region query. In this task, you will configure the salesperson region query. In the queries pane, select the dim employee sales territory query. In the query settings pane, rename the query salesperson region. Return. And that has been renamed to salesperson region. In the query settings, we rename that to salesperson region. To remove the last 2 columns, first select the dim employee header. While pressing the Control key, select dim sales territory. Right-click either of the select column headers And then in the context menu, select Remove Columns. In the status bar, verify that the query has 2 columns and 39 rows, and it does. So that was task 3. Task 4, configure the product query. In this task, you will configure the product query. Important, when detailed instructions have already been provided, the lab steps will now provide more concise instructions. If you need the detailed instructions, you can refer back to the steps of the previous tasks. Select the DIM product query. Rename the query to product. Locate the finished goods flag column. I'm not seeing it. So, oh wait, yeah, there's finished goods flags. Okay. There's the finished goods flag. And then we want to retrieve the products that were finished goods, which means we need to uncheck false and click OK to keep only the true. Remove all columns except the following. So manage columns, choose columns. We'll keep the product key. We'll just unselect all to start and then collect the product key. Then English product name and the standard cost, color, and DIM. Where's DIM product category? I'm not seeing DIM product category, so I'll try putting that for DIM product subcategory. Okay. There it is. And you can click OK. Notice that the DIM product subcategory column represents a related variable. All right, let's find that. DIM product subcategory represents a related table. It contains value links. In the DIM product subcategory column header, at the right of the column name, click the expand button. To uncheck all columns, uncheck the select all columns. Check the English product subcategory name and DIM product category. By selecting these 2 columns, a transformation will be applied to join the DIM product subcategory table and then include these columns. The DIM product category column is in fact another related table in the data source. Uncheck the Use Original Column Name Prefix checkbox right there. Query column names must always be unique. If left checked, this box would prefix each column with the expanded column name, in this case, DIM product subcategory, because it is known that the selected column names do not collide with column names in the product query. This option is deselected. So if you needed the table name to make these columns unique, then you could keep it, but that's not the case in this situation. So we can just click OK. Notice that the transformation resulted in the addition of 2 columns. And the DIM product subcategory has been removed. Expand the DIM product category, which has values in it. And then introduce only the English product category name column. English product category name. Let's say OK. We'll rename the following 4 columns. We'll rename English product name to product. Standard cost, we'll add a space. English product subcategory, we'll just call subcategory. English product category to category. In the status bar, verify that the query has 6 columns and 397 rows, and it does. So that's the end of task 4. Task 5 is to configure the reseller query. In this task, you'll configure the reseller query. Select the dim reseller query. Rename the query to reseller. Remove all the columns except for the following reseller key. Unselect everything, select back reseller key, business type, reseller name, and dim geography. We'll click OK. And expand the dim geography column, and we'll include only 3 columns. Unselect everything and reselect city, state, province name, and English country region name, and say OK. In the business type column, let's find that. In the business type column, click the down arrow and then review the distinct column values and notice the incorrect spelling of warehouse. So we see that warehouse is misspelled with 2 words. So we'll right click business type column header and then select replace values. We want to find warehouse and replace it with warehouse and say OK. I don't think there's anything else we have to do after that. Yeah. All right, rename the following 4 columns. Business type, we'll add a space. Reseller name to reseller. State province name to state-province. And English country region name to country region. In the status bar, verify that the query has 6 columns and 701 rows. And it does. So that was task 5. Task 6, configure the region query. In this task, you will configure the region query. Select the dim sales territory query. Rename the query to region. Apply a filter to the sales territory alternate key to column to remove the value of 0. And click OK. And we'll remove all columns except for these 4 variables. So we'll unselect everything and we'll bring back sales territory key, sales territory region, sales territory country, and sales territory group. And we'll say OK. And then we'll rename sales territory region to region. We'll rename sales territory country to country. And we'll rename sales territory group to group. In the status bar, verify that the query has 4 columns and 10 rows, and it does. Task 7, so that was task 6. So task 7 is configure the sales query. In this task, you will configure the sales query. Select the fact reseller sales query. Rename the query to sales. Remove all columns except for the following. Uncheck that. We'll choose sales order number, order date, product key, reseller key, employee key, sales territory key, order quantity, unit price, total product cost, sales amount, and dim product. Click OK. You may recall in the Prepare Data in Power BI Desktop Lab that a small percentage of fact reseller sales rows had missing total product cost values. The dim product column has been included to retrieve the product standard cost column to assist fixing the missing values. So expand the dim product column. Uncheck all the columns and then choose standard cost column only. To create a custom column on the Add Column ribbon tab from inside the General Group, click Custom Column. There's General Group, and there's Custom Column. Click Custom Column. And inside the Custom Column window, in the new column name box, replace the text with cost. In the Custom Column formula box, enter the expression after the equals sign. And they have it in a file. You can copy and paste. Let's try to see what we can do here. This is total product cost. Total product cost is equal. Oh, what happened? Oh, there it is. Wow. Oh, wow. Copied the whole thing. How did that happen? Wow. Anyway, I'll take it. If total product cost is null, then order quantity equals then order quantity times standard cost, else total product cost. And it says no syntax errors have been detected. That's nice. If the expression tests in the total product cost value is missing, it produces a value by multiplying order quantity value by the standard cost value. Otherwise, it uses the existing total product cost value. So click OK. Remove the following two columns, total product cost and standard cost. Rename the following three columns, order quantity to quantity. Rename unit price to at space. Sales amount to sales. Or just sales. To modify the column data type in the quantity column header at the left of the column name, click the 1.2 icon and then select whole number. So when we get back to the quantity, click on the 1.2 and then choose whole number to make its variable type a whole number. All right, configuring the correct data type is important. When the column contains numeric value, it's also important to choose the correct type if you expect to perform mathematical calculations. Modify the following three data types to fixed decimal number. unit price, fixed decimal number, sales, fixed decimal, which is the $ icon, and then cost. This one is a string. It's on the right-hand side, so this will change that up. Okay, now it is a fixed decimal number. The fixed decimal number data type stores values with full precision and so requires more storage space than decimal numbers. It's important to use the fixed decimal number type for financial values or rates like exchange rates. In the status bar, verify that the query has 10 rows and 999 plus 10 columns and 999 plus rows. It does. A maximum of 1,000 rows will be loaded as preview data for each query. So that is the end of task 7. Task 8 is to configure the targets query. In this task, you will configure the targets query. Select the reseller sales target query. Rename the query to targets. To unpivot, okay, so this data has 14 columns and 81 rows to start. There's the year and the employee ID, and then the remaining 12 variables represent month 1 through month 12. And they have some sparse data because if it's not from that particular month, then it's going to have a missing value represented by the hyphen. And so we're going to change. So this data currently has a wide shape. It's got the 2 ID variables, and then it's wide because it has 12 columns representing month. And we're going to make this into a long, skinny shape where there's 2 ID variables plus the time variable. So right now we have 14 columns. We're starting with 14 columns and 81 rows. So a wide shape. We'll change that. All right, to unpivot the 12-month columns M01 to M12, first multi-select the year and employee ID columns. So that year is selected, we'll hold Control, select employee ID also. And we'll right-click either. I think they're both selected, and choose unpivot column, unpivot other columns. All right, notice that now we have 4 columns and 972 rows. Notice that the column names M0 through M12 now appear in the attribute column, and the values appear in a column called value. Apply a filter to the value column to remove the hyphen values because those are missing. We don't need those any longer. So unselect the hyphens and say OK. You may recall that the hyphen character was used in the source CSV file to represent 0. Rename following 2 columns. Attribute to month number. And value to target. You'll now apply transformations to produce a date column. The date will be derived from the year and month number columns. You'll create the column by using the columns from examples feature. To prepare the month number column values, right-click month number column header, and then select Replace Values. And we want to find the capital M, and we want to replace it with nothing. So we'll click OK. And now the M has been deleted from month number. On the Add Column ribbon tab, from inside the General group, click the Column from Examples icon. Oh, I'm going to cancel that and just notice that the first value for year is 2017, the first row, and the first value for month number is 07, representing July. So we'll go to the Add Column ribbon tab from inside the General group, and we'll click Columns from Examples, and it says notice that the first row is for year is 2017, and the first month is the number 7. In the column 1 column, in the first grid cell, commence entering 7/1/2017 and press enter. The virtual machine uses US regional settings, so this date is in fact July 1, 2017. Notice that the grid cells update with the predicted values. The feature has accurately predicted that you're combining values from the year and month number columns. Notice also the formula presented above the query grid. It's a little hard to read, but there it is. To rename the new column, double-click the merged column header. We'll rename that target month. And to add the new column, we'll click OK. There it is. And we will remove the following columns, year and month number. Modify the following column data types. Target is currently a string. We want it to be a fixed decimal. Now it's over on the right side. And we want target month. It's currently a string. We want it to be recognized as a date. To multiply the target values by 1000, select the target column header, and then on the Transform ribbon tab, from inside the number column group, click Standard, and then choose Multiply. You may recall that the target values were stored as thousands. In the Multiply window, in the value box, enter 1000 and click OK. In the status bar, verify that the query has 3 columns and 809 rows, and it does. Task 9, configure the color formats query. In this task, you will configure the color formats query. Select the color formats query. Notice that the first row contains the column names. So the column name is color, and it has the values black, blue, gray, and so on. This column is named background color format and has these various hexadecimal values. So we want, these are in row 1, we want these to be elevated to be column names. So in order to do that, on the Home ribbon tab, get over now. How will we do this? We'll scoot over, and inside the Transform group, which is here, on the right-hand side, we click the little arrow to open that up. We will click Use First Row as Headers. Boom. Now color is the column header and background color format is that column header. In the status bar, verify that the query has 3 columns and 10 rows, and it does. So that was it for task 9. Task 10 is update the product query. In this task, you will update the product query by merging the color formats query. Select the product query. To merge the color formats query on the Home ribbon tab, from inside the Combine group, which is to the left. So I'll click this arrow to go to the left. In the Combine group, click Merge Query. So maybe I was over on the right and needed to be over on the right after all. I don't know. What about this? Is it here? No. Split column group by Combine. Okay, there it is. In the Combine group, we'll click Merge Queries. Merging queries allows integrating data, in this case, from different data sources, SQL Server and a CSV file. In the Merge window, is here. In the product query grid, which is here, select the color column header. Beneath the product query grid, in the drop-down list here, select the color formats query. In the color formats query grid, select the color column header. When the privacy levels window opens, for each of the two data sources in the corresponding drop-down list, select organizational. They show picture. Privacy levels can be configured for data sources to determine whether the data can be shared between sources. Setting each data source as organizational allows them to share data if necessary. Note that private data sources can never be shared with other data sources. It does not mean that private data cannot be shared. It means that the Power Query engine cannot share between sources. Click Save. In the Merge window, use the default join kind, maintaining the selection of left outer, and click OK. We've got the join kind of left outer. We'll leave that and click OK. Expand the color formats column to include the following two columns. We want to keep background color format and the font color format. Okay. And in the status bar, we should have 8 columns and 397 rows, which we do. So that was task 10. Task 11 is to update the color formats query. In this task, you will update the color formats query to disable its load. Select color formats query. In the query settings pane, click the all properties link. In the query properties window, uncheck enable load to report. Checkbox disabling the load means that it will not load as a table to the data model. This is done because the query was merged with the product query, which is enabled to load to the data model. We'll click OK. And that was task 11. Task 12 is to finish up. In this task, you'll complete the lab. Verify that you have 8 queries correctly named as following. So we see we have 8 queries: salesperson, salesperson region, product, reseller, region, sales, targets, color formats, which will not load to the data model. To load the data model, on the file backstage view, file, I'm not sure that's what I want to do. File. And I see like close and apply. Oh, what happened to what I was working on? Now I'm confused. I'm going to discard the changes. What happened? Did I already close and apply it somehow? Let's see where it got to. That's weird. I don't know where that work got to. There it is. Okay, file and close and apply. There it is. File and close and apply. So I'll scroll back up to choose file and close and apply. And then let's see. All load enabled queries are now loaded to the data model. In the fields pane, bring that back. Located at the right. Fields pane is located on the right. We notice the 7 tables loaded to the data model from product to targets. We'll save the Power BI desktop file. File and save. If you intend to start the next lab, leave the Power BI desktop open. You'll configure data models, model tables, and relationships in the model data in Power BI desktop Part 1 lab. Congratulations, you have successfully completed this module. To mark the lab as complete, click End. All right, we'll end the lab and mark it complete. Thank you.